In this video, I'm going to talk about the convergence and divergence of sequence. I have a few examples. I'm going to go over them one by one. So let's talk about the first sequence, which is negative 1 to the power n. So if I expand it, this is what I'm going to get. So let's do a negative 1 to the power 1, which is just going to be 1, negative 1, and then negative 1 whole square, which is going to be negative 1 times negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1, that is going to be positive 1. So negative 1 to the power 3 or negative 1 whole cube is going to be just negative 1, and you get the idea. So your A1, the first element of the sequence or first number, is negative 1. A2 is equal to positive 1. A3 is equal to negative 1, and you will see A4 is going to be positive 1 and keeps going. And if the power is even, it is positive 1. If the power is odd, then it's negative 1. So it fluctuates, it goes back and forth. The sequence goes back and forth between positive 1 and negative 1. So it really doesn't settle down anywhere. Even though the sequence does not go towards positive infinity or negative infinity, but it fluctuates. Therefore, this sequence does not converge. That means this one diverges. And let's do B then. B is going to be negative 1 to 1/3, negative 1/3 to the power n, as n goes from 1 to infinity, or n is an element of the set of natural numbers, which is 1, 2, 3, and dot, dot, dot. Now this one, however, it fluctuates. It kind of goes back and forth, but it still goes to a distinct point, which is 0. So let's write it out. So my A1, so I'm just gonna skip a little bit here. A1 is gonna be negative 1/3 when n is 1. My A2 is gonna be positive 1/9, okay? Or I could actually write it as slightly differently. I meant to write 3 square, okay? My A3 is gonna be negative 1/3 cube, right? A4 is gonna be 1/3 to the power 4, and you get the idea. This sequence actually converges, even though you see the terms, individual terms, they alternate between positive and negative. However, they go to 0, they approach 0. So let's say this is your 0, okay? So let's say this is your point 0, okay? And it's gonna go between positive and negative, okay? So it's gonna be positive here, then going to negative, and then going back to positive, going back to negative, and gets closer and closer to 0, okay? As n increases, it gets closer and closer to 0. So therefore, it converges to 0. So limit n approaches infinity. So limit n approaches infinity, a sub n is gonna be just 0 here. The next one, let's do, is C, and that is 1 plus 1/n to the power n. So we need to find the limit n approaches infinity, okay? So what value does it approach to? This one kind of requires a little bit of work to show it, but it does actually converge to a very special number that all of you know. It's E, the Euler's constant, okay? So as n approaches infinity, okay, 1 plus 1/n raised to the power n is actually nothing but E. And as you know, E is approximately 2.6 7, 1, 7, 2, and dot, dot, dot. It's an irrational number, right? Irrational number. A number is an irrational number if it cannot be expressed as a ratio of two integers, all right? That's where the irrational comes from. Opposite of rational is irrational. Rational means you can express it as a ratio of two integers. Next, let's go ahead and do the last one in this group, D, which is 1/2 plus negative 1/2 to the power n, negative 1/2 to the power n, as n goes from 1 to infinity. Now this one is actually kind of like part B as well. See, we have negative 1/2 to the power n. As n approaches infinity, this actually goes to 0, or it approaches 0. So limit n approaches infinity, negative 1/2 to the power n is equal to 0. As you know, this is going to be negative 1/2 positive 1 over 2 square, negative 1 over 2 cube, and it keeps going. Again, if this is your 0, it fluctuates between this point and gradually getting closer and closer to 0. And at the limiting point, it goes to. Now, the sequence itself, however, if this term goes to 0, then the sequence naturally approaches 0. So limit n approaches infinity, 1/2 plus negative 1/2 to the power n is going to be nothing but 1/2. Okay, I hope that this discussion was helpful. Thank you very much.